テストですよ。メイクテストでーす。よいしょ。いや、ごめんね、急にちょっと抜けちゃって。いや、なんかピンポーンってきてさ、何と思ったらさ、林男女ペアで、すいません、これ今度イベントがあるんで、これちょっと QR コードも貼ってあるんで、これどうぞって渡された紙が、イエスの死を思い起こす集まり、イエスの死はあなたにも関係がありますっていう紙を渡されました。怖いね。初めてだよ、こういう宗教のやつ来たの。いやー、あるんだな。ということでね、始めていきましょう。今日は多分単発になるかな。怖いね。ザ・スタンリー・パラブレム、ウルトラデラックスバージョンですね。多分このウルトラデラックス、そう、なんかダウンロードコンテンツみたいな、新しくなったやつみたいな感じなんだけど、ちょっと全部のエンディングがさすがに多分めちゃくちゃ多いから、このゲームのエンディングが全部はやらないんですけど、ある程度ね、このゲームはこういうゲームだよっていうのを楽しみながらね、やっていきたいと思います。そう、それでね、ゲームのコントローラーを買いました。パッドを買いました。これからね、スムーズにいろんなゲームやっていきたいと思いますね。このゲームは、どういうゲームかというと、よく、普通のゲームってチュートリアルとか、これをこうしてくださいっていうのがあるじゃないですか。その指示に、基本従うんですよね。その指示がずっとアナウンスでずっと指示してくるゲームですね。それ従ってもいいし、そのアナウンスに従わなくてもいい。とにかくもうずっと指示を言ってくるようなゲームです。このゲームはね、多分特に操作性そんなに多くないから、始めますか。
This is the story of a man named
これは
Stanley.
スタンリーという名の男の物語。
Stanley worked for a
二
company
人
in
は
a
大
big
きなビル
building
の会社
where
で
he was
従業員番号
employee
427
number
として働いていました。
427. Employee
従
number
業員番号
427's job
427 の
was
仕
simple.
事は至っ
He
て
sat
単
at
純。
his desk in room
デスクに向かい、キ
427
ーボードのボ
and
タン
he
を押すだけです。
pushed
本当
buttons
いや
on the keyboard.
それで
Orders
いや俺よりひどい。
were made at his desk, telling him what
ボタンの
buttons
上
to
がなく
push,
つ
how
けてくれ
long
る
to
ので
push
す。
them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did
おい、
every day,
何ヶ月も
every
何年
month
も。
of
うわ
every year. And although others
ずっ
might
と
have
したし
considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he
こ
had
の仕
been
事を
made
するために
exactly
生まれてきたかのよう
for
に
his job.
こうはなりたくないな。
Was happy.
いや絶対幸せじゃないでしょ。
And then one day, something very peculiar
なんだ
happened.
かとても奇妙なことが起きた
Something
の
that
で
would
す。
forever change Stanley.
何
Something
で
he
しょ
would
う。
never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not
俺探したその
one
指示が来な
single
いことに気が
order
つきまし
had
た。
arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him
会議を
instructions,
開く人が
call a
発生してさえ
meeting,
誰も
or
行きません。
even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened.
孤立はあり
This
ませんでした。
complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong.
何か変だ。
Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable
シ
to
ョック
move
で
for
固
the
まったスタンリーは
longest
長く目
time.
がけ取れなくなっていまし
But
た。
as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk
これの部屋を
and
出て行
stepped
きま
out
し
of his
た。
office.
お、動かせる。まあ、スタンリー、この主人公は、ボタンをね、この、パソコンの、Windows なんだこれ。パソコンのボタンをね、久しぶりにポチポチするだけの仕事をしていたと。もうずっと何年もね。で、様子がおかしいと。今日は様子がおかしい。パソコンの指示が出てくるんだけど、1時間経っても何も指示が出てこない。こんなこと今までなかった。外見てれば人もいないし、会議してる人もいない。これはどうしたことかっていうところから始まりですね。427番。英語弱いんだよな、俺。お、しゃがめんだ。I had on days. 何時だ10時。いや、9時か。9時55分ぐらいか。428。同じような部屋がありますね。怖いよな。なんか、本当にこういう会
All
社
of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting
おそら
room.
く彼は
Perhaps he
伝
had
言を見
simply
落とし
missed
た
a
のでしょう。
memo.
ああ、そうなの？え？ I dad 私は父。I had Monday。
No matter how hard
二人が
Stanley
どれだけ
looked,
一生懸
he
命探
couldn't
して
find a
も
trace
私た
of
ちの
his
骨が見つかりません
co-workers.
でした。めっちゃ喋ってくるんですよね。あ、押せる。すごい。でも開かないと。戻れないのかな。あ、戻れない。
Stanley went around
オフィ
touching
スが
every
あらゆる
little
ものを
thing
触っ
in
て
the
回り
office,
ました。
but it didn't make a single
でも少
difference.
しも変わらないし、
Nor
決して物語
did
は
it
発
advance
展
the
しませんでし
story
た。
in any way.
何も起きないな。一回ちゃんと指示に従ってみるか。え？光りすぎじゃない？なんかバイオハザード映画でさ、なんか地下施設なのにまるでなんか外にいるかのような窓 あったじゃん、あれ。なんか子供の頃見てちょっとロマンを感じたんだよな、 SF の。お、なんか置いてる。 Keep dry。 Knowing your city。 なんか天井が抜けてる。本当に誰もいないな。コードがある。迷路みたいな会社ってなんか個人的にちょっとロマンを感じるんだよね。お、2つ選択肢がある。
When Stanley came to a set of
そ
two
のドア
open
彼
doors,
は
he
左
entered
の
the
方
door
の
on his
ドアに
left.
入りました。 左。ちょっと一回フェイクかけて左行くか。
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it
その
perfectly
上でと
well.
ても
Perhaps he
お
wanted to
そらく
stop
彼は
by the
まず従業
employee
員のラ
lounge
ウンジに
first,
立
just
ち寄り
to
それ
admire
を
it.
褒めたかったんでしょう。戻れないんだ。怖い。ホラーゲームではないんだよな、このゲーム。あ、そうです。この部屋は本当に褒めたたえる価値があります。
It had really been
遠
worth
回
the
りした甲斐
detour
があった
after
もの
all,
だ。
just to spend a few moments
こ
here
の
in
しび
this
一つの美しい
immaculate,
作りの部屋で
beautifully
ほんとそれだけ
constructed room.
でいい
Stanley
です。スタンリー
simply
はそ
stood
こたちに
here,
惚れまし
drinking
た。
it all in.
なんか全部指示になんかもう操られてるような。皮肉で皮肉。
Yes,
本当にこの部屋を見る価値があり、早く出ろってことだよ。
room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth
本当に
it.
価値がある。コーヒー塗って。
But eager to get back to business,
早く出て
Stanley
く
took
て、
the
スタン
first
リーは
open door on his
左
left,
側のドアに入りました。まあ、従いますか。
and so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
いや、選択肢多いて。まず普通にやろう、普通に。
Yet there was not a single
誰一人
person
として
here
いません
either.
でした。
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to
彼
go
そこから
up
何
to
が
his
答える
boss's
か知らない
office,
と希望を抱
hoping
き、
he might find an answer
上の
there.
階には上司のオフィス。ローンクローゼット。お
Stanley stepped into the
Stanley
broom
は
closet,
そこは
but
何
there
もあ
was
りませんで
nothing
した。
here, so he turned around
だから
and
彼は
got
プレ
back
ル
on
トがあり、
track.
引き返していきました。
There was nothing here,
選
no
択す
choice
る
to
も
make,
ないし、
no path to
通常は
follow,
ただ空っ
just
ぽ
an
の置
empty
物。
broom closet.
ちょっと
No
怒ってきました
reason
ね。
to still
ここに
be
いる
here.
理由はありません。うるせえな。
It was baffling that
Tadi ya,
Stanley was still
saat
just
kota
sitting in the
kakailis.
broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to
Serato mo,
interact with,
kore-
he'd be justified in some way.
Serato ko sa
As it
likod,
is, he's literally just standing
Tadi,
there
matagal
doing
mo
sweet
sinayod.
buffet.
もう怒り始めたぞ。
Are you really still in the broom
あなた、あ
closet?
なた本当にまだ
Standing around
私
doing
のぼや
nothing?
立ってどうしてなの？
Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused.
ち言ってくるやん。なんもない状態で
You do realize there's no choice or
分かっ
anything
た
in
分か
here,
った
right?
も
If I'd said Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever. I never would have thought to mention
う。
it.
すごいよなこのゲーム。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's
く
office.
そ。あれ上の階段でいても。上行くか。上司の部屋これが。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any
それ
human
だけ
life.
がない。
Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being
こんな
held
ダ
from
ークな
him?
秘密隠せて
What
る
he
んだろ
could not
う。
have
彼が
known
知る
was that the
べきもの
keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible
上司
truth
の
that
後ろ
his
にある
boss
キ
had
ー
been
パ
keeping
ッ
from
ドに
him.
隠されている。
And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret pin number 2845.
2845。
But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Stanley just sat around
下手
twiddling
な
his
さに芋
thumbs.
魂をよく
Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was
めっちゃ言ってく
2845.
るやん。
2845. Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in,
なんとパネルの
and the door
あ
just
あ
opened
れ
by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
えらいこっちゃえらいこっちゃって。え、なになに、え、俺なになになになに、怖い怖い怖い怖い。すげえな、会社にこんなエレベーターあんのかよ。
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him?
急に自我が
This
生まれたのか
question
な。
would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door
Mind
that read
control
Mind
resets.
Control Facility.
え、洗脳
Although this passageway had the word
それに脱
escape
出と書
written
か
on
れてい
it,
ます。
the truth was that
さあ
at the
この
end
問い
of
の終わ
this
り、スタンリー
hall,
は
Stanley
起業
would
の
meet
死を
his
遂げるの
violent
です。
death.
え、
The door behind him was not shut.
彼の後ろにドア
Stanley still had
まだ
every
引っ返すやつがあっ
opportunity
た
to
んで
turn
す。
around and get back on
じゃあ戻ら
track.
せようとするな。
At
気
this
になっちゃう
point,
な。
Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his
己の
death.
死に直面するのです。え、怖っ。おお、ああ、びっくりした。なんだこれ。
As the machine whirred into motion and
Stanley
Stanley was
は終わりへ
inched
と。
closer and closer to his demise, he
やめてくれ。
reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the
これは
real
真実の
story,
息子の姿なの
trapped
か。
forever in his narrow
やばい
vision
やばいやばい、
of
プレ
what
スされる。
this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned
ジャンプすれば
and willingly
あそこ
accepted this
届くって。
violent end to his brief and shallow life.
ああ、やばいやばい。
Stanley,
死ぬ。うわー、え、
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was
Oh,
led
God.
helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
おお、びっくりした。ああ、びっくりした。あれ、知らなかったんだけど。てか指示無視しちゃった。あれ、ザ・スタンリー・パラ
And
ブ
yet it
ル。
would be just a few minutes
このゲームを
before
再開し、
Stanley would restart the
相変わらず
game
元気なオフィス
back
に
in
戻
his
ってくるんです。
office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
え、あれ、あれ、なんか、あれ戻れなくなっちゃった。あ、あ、びっくりした。一瞬、どこにいるか分かんなくなっちゃった。え、なんでこれ通り過ぎれちゃうの俺。
When every path you can walk has been created
前か
for
ら
you long in advance,
お
death
う
becomes meaningless,
死
making
の意
life
味
the
を知ら生きる
same.
のと同じことにな
Do
り
you
ます。
see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
これ自分の部屋？あ、これあったね。この青写真ではゲーム開始時のオフィスの様子が見られます。これはスタンリーのオフィスから2つのドアが経由でこのゲームの最初の部分です。開発の追加変更されましたが、核となるレイヤード性能とほぼ同じです。おー。あ、これであれか。2つの部屋ね。 応答テンポ重要で、この廊下を動かし、変更したりして、プレイヤーがいいタイミングでたどり着くようです。この2つのドアというセットがかなり初期の段階で、ザ・スタンリーパラブルのデザインの具体的なものの一つとなりました。この部屋を作ることで、その延長線上にゲームの内容が現れ、この部屋がもたらす矛盾を探っていくことになります。ほんと設定資料集みたいな。飛ぶ棚。そんなの？オフィスのパソコン。オフィス。なんでこれキーボードの押すんだろう。実績を。ナレーター。開発リーダーです。そして火の打ちどころのないくらいのナレーター。なんか日本語おかしくね？ウェブマスター。博物館みたいだな。わあ、すごい。博物館みたい。何これ？何これ？違うゲームみたい。当選地帯。開発当初、私たちはスタンリーがエイリアンと戦場で戦うエンディングをデザインしました。このアクションゲームは知覚を持ち始め、ナレーターと戦うことになるのです。私たちは作り始めてすぐにこれはこのゲームのトーンに対し冗談が過ぎるということに気がつきました。さらにシューティングが好きな人たちをからかっていると解釈する人もいましたが、そういう意図ではありません。最初は戦争のゲームを作ろうとしたんだ。すごい。ウルトラデラックス、これね、2018年12月、ザ・スタンリー・パラグレムのウルトラデラックスバージョン、2018年。これゲームの延期と発表のために制作した動画のスクリーンショットです。ちょっと前に流行ったんだよな。何年、5年とかそんぐらい前に。ナレーターのメール。2回目の予告の後、ナレーターへの質問メールを募集しました。当時これを宣伝材料にしようと企画したのですが、完璧な使い道を見つけられませんでした。ここにそのメールの一部を紹介します。なんだ、早い。I have a question for you, sir, and it is, what is your message for today? Stanley Harris. There is a skeleton inside of you, there more. わかんない。疲れる。アパートメントタイマー。マイバージョンでは、アパートのエンディングへつながる選択肢で電話に出るまでの10ぐらい経りましたが、電話に出ないと違うエンディングになります。なんか、まだ始めてエンディング1個も見てないのに、ネタバレ食らってるな。会議室。メンテナンスレイアウト。これクリアした後に見た方がいいんじゃないか。ゼンディング。初期バージョン。予告編。本当になんかゲーム開発のなんか、ゲーム終わった後に来る部屋だよな。ファイナルファンタジーとかもこういうのあるよね。なんかスタッフがいる部屋みたいな。
Oh, look at these two. How they wish
お
to
互いどんな
destroy
相手を
one
やっつけたいと
another.
願っているでしょう。
How
どんな
they
相手に
wish
支
to
配したい
control
と
one
願っている
another.
でしょう。
How they both
どんな
wish
自
to
由に
be
相手と思っている
free.
でしょう。
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No.
いや違うかもしれない。時々こういうの見てないこともありますし。話が難しい。おお、あれ
You can still save those two. You can stop the program before they
それ
both
までプログラム取
fail.
られるです。
Push escape and
エ
press
スケープを
quit. There's
して
no
このゲー
other
ムに
way
勝つ
to
それが
beat this
あ、い
game.
け戻れ
As
と
long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path.
こうしろと。
Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever
いや
you do,
奇跡が起こ
choose
る。
it.
スタンリーならできる。
Time choose for you.
スタンリー、うおう死んじまったな俺は。あれ、はっ、夢か。夢だ。夢だったんだあれは。さてと。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
わかりましたよ。もう指示に従います。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
おお。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
もう急になんか流れ始めた。あうぜえ、早くしろ。
Soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
オッケーオッケー。従いますよ。こっちでしょ。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
聞きたいな、この。こっちのナレーションの
Although
中
this
で。
passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. But of course, Stanley thought better of it and realized he simply had too much to live
深
for.
いすぎていると気づきました。ああ、もういけない。クソ。
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens.
バイオハザー
What
ドとか出て
horrible
きそう。
secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed.
Fired.
Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen.
おー、監視されてたんだ。
One of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Agent. Employees should never under any わかんない。なんて書いてあるかわかんない。うわぁ、すげえ。何番だっけ自分の番号忘れちゃったよ。
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe it couldn't be
そんなものは真実
true.
の
Had
はずがな
Stanley
い。
really been under someone's control
世
all
界コン
this
トロールされていた
time?
のでしょう
Was
か。
this the only reason he was happy with his
仕事を
boring
幸せに感
job?
じてい
That
た。
his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
何が目的だ、
No.
こいつ。
He refused to believe it.
彼は受け入
He
れることが
couldn't accept it.
でき
His
なかったの
own
です。
life in someone else's control?
他人のものでした。
Never.
ありえない。
It was unthinkable.
としますよ
Wasn't
ね。
it?
そんなことう
Was it
るせえ
even
な。
possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life, for he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
番号順に押すか。多分番号書いてあるでしょう。1、2、あと一つだ。3、4どこだ。4どこだこれ。意味ないのかなこの数字は。4なくね。あ、違うか。4がないな。あった4。登れなくね。階段ある。あった。あ、これ入れない。階段が入れない。暗くて見えねえな。あ、くそ。登れないんだ。くそ。関係あると思ったのにな。Mind control always input.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
もうここでも選択肢かよ。オンにして。ああ。
Blackness and a rising
そして
chill of
不安で高まる
uncertainty.
恐怖心。
Was it over?
終わった。
Yes. He had
彼
won.
は勝ったの
He
だ
had
と賛成
defeated the
な。
machine. unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away.
自由はすぐそばにあったのです。
Even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
どうなってんだここは。
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
なんか薄いな、このエンディング。何を指したかったんだマジでって感じだよな。これが通常エンドかな。指示に従い続けた。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
オフにしようあれ。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the direct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
右行っちゃう癖あるな。
Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
ここ行ってないよね。行ったっけこれ。
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
どんだけ収録したんだろうこの声を。
Now, let's see. We went down, right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
No,
this isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
戻された。くそ。戻された。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
それを見つけようぜ。 あれあれなんだこれ迷路になってる。おかしいぞ。えおう。部屋の構造おかしくね。
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
あ、また消す。ああ。まともにできないこ
All
れ。
of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
こぼれてる。
Aha! I knew
え、
we
でも
missed
こんな部屋あった
something.
っけ？
The story.
ストーリ
Here
ー来
it
た来た。
comes. No, wait, never mind. Not the story.
このストーリーじゃない。
Let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
なんだこれ。怖い。
Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all.
見覚えがない。
Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building.
いや、オフィスビルが舞台だ。
Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what?
Do you
Since I've completely
remember?
forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win!
Yeah.
Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job. Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to
ま
restart.
たリストされる。ああ。
All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parabie Adventure Line.
Adventure
Just follow
Line.
the line. How simple is that? You see? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to
すごいこと
apologize.
になってる。
Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten
お、
the
音
mood.
楽？なんだこれ。他の道がない。
Wait, cut the music, go back and look at that fern.
死だ。
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing? Oh, no,
また
not
ここ。
again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
あれ、何もナレーションがない。
You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Oh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction? Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready
こう
for
いう
it.
夢見そう。同じところを永遠に歩く。バックルームみたいだな。
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine. Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere at the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
こっち行けないのか。
What's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game eight times? That's really how all this goes?
飽きてさ、ナレーターがゲームをリスタートする。
Determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really? No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay. I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually.
永遠に喋ってんな。
Well, in the meantime,
びっくりした。びっくりした。強制リスタートだ。おい、もうやだよ。やだ。怖い。
all of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
ナレーション
Stanley
も
decided
覚え
to
てな
go
い
to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
怖い。この二択の部屋、おる。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
戻ったんだ。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Okay, I think we all know the drill by now. Blah, blah, blah. Dark secrets, the keypad, Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh, hey, look, it's a new passageway. Quelle surprise.
もうナレーション飽きちゃってんじゃん。 おう。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
職場とかに監視カメラもちろんあるとは思うんですけど、
This mind control facility,
休憩
it was
室と
too
かにも
horrible to believe it
カメラ
couldn't
があ
be
る
true. Had
ところある
Stanley
じゃん。
really been under someone's control all this
いい
time?
よ、怖い
Was
よ
this the
ね。
only reason he was happy with his boring job?
普通
That
に
his
休憩でき
emotions
ないっ
had
てい
been
うか。
manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible?
この間
Had
聞
he
いた
truly spent his entire life utterly
うる
blind
せえな
to
で
the
しょ。
world? But here was the proof. The heart
こっ
of the
ちが喋る
operation.
隙がねえわ。
Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink
オンだ
in,
ぜ。
Stanley decided that this machinery would never again... Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system.
ナレーションパワ
In
ー
the
が。
event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the
マジか。
entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's
お前が
say
決めてるだろう。
2 minutes.
2 minutes?
Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it,
やばい。
Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is.
あ、
More time to talk about you,
わかったぞ。
about me, where we're
でも間
going,
に合うかな。
what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events
これ
has been
面白い
rather
バージョンで
amusing.
すよ、これ。
Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich.
面白がってやがる。
Almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just
青ボ
assume
タンを
when you
探
saw
さない
that
といけないの
timer
か
that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is?
え
Stanley,
赤
you're
1
in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you.
わけわ
That
かんない
timer isn't a
なんだこれ
catalyst to keep the action moving along.
黄色の
It's
4
just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world.
わかんね
But I'm going to destroy it first, so you
え
can't.
はい
Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you
あ
have
ダメ
left
だ
to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing.
あもうダメだあ
You'll
は
be blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be
正解あったのか
laughing
な
at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever
あーバカでしたいや脳みそ壊れそうクソ
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started.
Oh,
And if it
cold.
did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
そうだ下に行こ
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours.
どうやって
He might
車
be
来たんだこ
fired
れ
for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down?
本当だ
Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went?
なんで
And
自
for
動
that
閉まる
matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all.
夢なんだ
And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
お
Then he imagined
We did
himself
it.
soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, The truth was that, of course, this was not a dream.
長
How
す
could
ぎ
it
る。
be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself?
リセットさん
Believing
みた
that
い
if。he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream.
全然冷めねえ
So
じ
he
ゃん。
closed his eyes gently,
あ、
and
ま
he
たリセット
invited
か。
himself
あ
to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his
Oh.
back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife
妻い
and
る
my
んだ。
job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am
普通
normal.
すべてうまくいく。
Everything will be fine. I am okay.
冷めてない。
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
ああ。狂っちゃったのかな。
This is the story of a woman named
マリエ
Mariella.
ラ。誰？
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of
Dore.
work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man
死体。
who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself,
幻
then
覚だったの？
collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew.
いや、
Everyone
読め
knows
よ。
what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was
う
to
わ、
be
性
normal.
格悪いマリ
I
エラ。
am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real
帰
and
り
what
方からちょっ
isn't.
と普通なのかな。
It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing
無
this
視しちゃ
man
う
made
の
her
こういう
feel
人。
better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day.
お、マジかよ。
Very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this,
電話すりゃいいじ
so
ゃん。
it was only a moment that
会社
she
に。
stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
おかしいかな。普通もう会社にすいませんちょっと倒れてる人がいてちょっと救急車とか呼びたい
All
の
of
で
his coworkers
遅れますって言え
were
ば
gone.
いいじゃん。
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he
ま
had
あ
simply
中国
missed
と
a
か
memo.
ありそうだよねそういうの。ニューコンテント。何これ
Oh, new content? What does that mean?
Content.
New content.
え何これドンキーコングみたいな。これネプリーグみたい。おおすげえ。
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra
新
Deluxe.
要素だ。
As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers.
そんな古いんだ。
After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in
2022なんだ。
2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe,
成功
a
された。
reimagining of the
ペ
game
ガ
for
バズのゲー
consoles
ム機
and home
向けに
computers.
あゲーム機にもあんのこれ。
The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley
More.
Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley
面
Parable
白い。
Ultra Deluxe.
トラクションや
Oh,
ん。
well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new ultra
めちゃん
deluxe
こワクワ
content.
クして、誰だよ、日本語訳した人。めちゃんこワクワクしちゃ
Okay,
う。
so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
あれ閉じ込められた。始まんねえじゃん。
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere? Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
You do it. Let's do it.
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious.
まあ退
It's
屈
as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
俺よりこうナレーションが楽しみにしちゃってんじゃん。なんだこだだっ広い部屋。
All right. All right, let's see. It's
ジャンプできんの
the jump circle.
なんだこれ。イェイイェイイェイイェイイェイイェイウォーウォーウォーウォーイェイイェイイェイイェイイェイ 4 3 2 1 0えなんもないよ。え
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
雲行きが怪しくなってきたぞ。
Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right
20時間分の
there.
新コンテン
I
ツがあるん
could
です。
counter 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra
そんなやるゲームじゃ
now
ねえ
with
だ
over
ろ。
1,000 hours of new content. And if... Oh, wait. There's more. Very good.
いいじゃない。
I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is. That's it? Oh, you've
まだ
got
からか
to
っ
be
てんの
kidding
か。
me.
俺
You
ス
see,
タンリーよ。
Stanley, this is what happens when greedy
男性が
video
ファンの
game
気持ちを無視
developers
して
with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap
金
expansion
を
to
かけ
market
て安
for
っぽい
no
拡張
reason
版
other
を
than to
無
make
意
an
に作
easy
り売り出
dollar.
した
And
結
don't
構こ
get
れ
me
かよ。
started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, Test achievement, please ignore. What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally
ツイッターじゃねえ
accountable.
んだよ、もう X なんだよ。
It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game, and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like
同
always.
じだか。
What do you say, friend?
あれ戻されてた。ニューコンテンツ。あれなんだこれ。
Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
なになになにナレーションがなんとか可愛くなってる。ペプシ飲んで
Okay,
ます
you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new ultra deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret.
なんか見たことあるぞ
Take
こ
a
れ。
look.
なんか見たことあるこれ。
I call it the memory zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
PC 版。なんだ、なんか、ウィッチャーとかダクソっぽい入り口が。ザ・メモリーゾーン。
You see, Stanley, doesn't the memory zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013,
本当に発売されてたんだ。
Back
13
then,
年に。
video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something.
懐かしいな。パソコンのゲームってこんな感じだったよね。当時はパソコンでゲームやるなんて自分は考えられなかったから、あれだったけど、こういう太いのにディスクが入ってさ、100均とか言って100均のなんかパソコンのゲームとかもいっぱい売ってあって、懐かしいな。100均の知らないでしょみんな。100均にパソコンのゲームがめっちゃ売ってたの。で今ではプレミアムもついちゃってさ、懐かしいな。なんだか合ってる。2013になってる時計が。本当に2013年なのかな。調べてみよう。ゲームの制作者プレイヤーのかけハーフライフ無料のモッドとしてハーフライフ2の無料のモッドとして2011年4月30日にリリースされた。2012年 PC 版が2013年なんだ。へえ、そんなに古いんだ。すごい歴史のあるゲームだね。すごいな。なんで1ドル札が。いや懐かしいな。ちょっとアメリカに1ヶ月だけ行ったことがあって。そうそうそう。で、結構向こうはもうキャッシュじゃなくて結構キャッシュレスだ。カードが主なんだよね。でもカード使うの嫌だったからキャッシュめっちゃ使っててさ。あ、さっき見たエンディング。クズ女エンディング。あれやらだっけ。くそ、のどかだな。急に温泉みたいな。
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim. It was Persona 3. It was all of them. And now, it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
今のこのコンテンツもデラックスエディションだからあるんでしょ。ペルソナ3、なんで3なんだよ。あ、でも確かにペルソナ3って結構名作だよな。あ、でも俺4だわ。ペルソナ4が一番 記憶にあるな。スカイリムも伝説的なゲームだもんな。オリジナル、ザ・オリジナルリメイク。パーソン・オブ・ザ・イヤー。アリエラとスタンリーか。なんか、すごい。ボタンがいっぱいある。The greatest with is memory.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone.To spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
昔は良かったねといつも口にしながら
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back to have it all over again.
逃げたいくらい辛い気持ち抱えていても鏡の前笑っているまだ平気みたいだよでどんな時も僕なんだっけビルの間窮屈そうに
Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here.
よくないレビューもあったの
Surely
か
these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
スチームのレビューオンラインレビューバットが書いてある
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is
ナレー
obnoxious
ター
and
が深いで面白くない
unfunny,
言われ
with
てる
his
ぞ
humor and dialogue proving to be more
いや確かに
irritating than entertaining. Unfunny!
I'm funny
Trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
いいね和訳がちょっと日本語バージョンも吹き替えしてほしいなおもれえわ別に面白くしようとしてねえし有名声優でねナレーションしてほしいよバットマグワかグッドもあるね
Okay, let's see what this one says.
OK この駅やってみようか
While the idea for the game is good,
だが
for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley, I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't.
聞いてるじゃん
What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
いや、いいものだって。今のナレーション好きですよ。かわいい。なんか人間味がある。ちょっと最初はうぜえと思ったけどね。なんか BGM が怖くなってきた。
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations
まあ
of
確
what's
かにそう。
I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
スキップボタン導入するの？
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore you, with just the push of a button, you'll have zipped right past it. It's what the players have been asking for, and I'm very proud to have delivered. No more listening to me rambling on and on. No. The Stanley Parable is a game for the people. And if the people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up. Here, we'll pretend that I've just begun an interminable monologue, and it goes something like this. The story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once, so now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, until 245. That the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years, until just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say the story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once, so now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, until 245. That the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years, until just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say the story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once, so now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, until 245. That the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years, until just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say the story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once, so now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, until 245. That the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years, until just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say
the story, and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once. So now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, until 200.
So, 飛ばすしかなかった
You're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe a manifesto. Look, I'll outline it for you very briefly, and you can tell me what you think. Okay, so my theory is that any choice you've ever made is simply a series of choices made by the person who you are, or were, or will be at the time of having... Well, there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer, and my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. I've looked at it from every angle. I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times. And there's no door, Stanley. There's no door. There's just you and the button. And if you keep pressing it, I have no idea what will happen. I have no idea how long I'll be made to sit here. And more than anything else, I don't know how to stop you from pressing the button again. I can't control anything in this room, Stanley. I can't touch it. And I have to believe. I have to know that sooner or later, no matter how much I plead with you, you're going to press the button again. Why would you? I've been thinking and thinking, and I don't know what I can do to convince you otherwise. Oh, my God. And it's all because of those reviews that I couldn't get out of my head. I just couldn't ignore the negative feedback. Why was it so important for me to fix the problem? Why did Cookie Nine's opinion matter so much to me? I've never even met Cookie Nine. I have no idea who they are. What would it ever really matter? But here I am. I'm fixating on every tiny negative thing that anyone ever says about me. The merest mention of one of my imperfections, and I become as impetulant as a child, wild and impulsive. I can't help myself. I can't stop myself from lashing out with a vengeful fury to alter and to change and to break anything unbroken, if only it pleases this one person who made a single negative comment. What does such an impulse serve? For whose benefit is this? And here I am now, stuck in a room, waiting for you to press this button, and to become frozen in time, knowing that you're going to do it, and that I'm going to be stuck all alone, and that I had the power to prevent it all from happening, if only I'd held my tongue. It's all out of my control now. Just you. Just your decision as to exactly when you're going to make me suffer, to leave me all alone. Surely you will. I don't doubt it. Surely you'll press that button again, leaving me here. And surely you'll put your own desire to see what's next ahead of my need for company, for companionship. Surely you'll not be moved by my howls of fitful anxiety that you sit with me and just stay here. Oh, no, I know you too well. You'll be leaving me again. Oh, my God. And it's all because of those reviews that I couldn't get out of my head. I just couldn't ignore the negative feedback. Why was it so important for me to fix the problem? Why did Cookie Nine's opinion matter so much to me? I've never even met Cookie Nine. I have no
本当にいい
idea
のかな
who they are.
クッキーナイン
What would it ever really matter? But here I am. I'm fixating on every tiny negative thing that anyone ever says about me. The merest mention of one of my
アンチを
imperfections,
気にす
and
る
I
と
become as
こうなるよって感
impetulant
じ
as
だ
a
ね。
child, wild and impulsive. I can't help
有
myself.
名人は
I
ね、
can't stop myself from lashing out
気に
with
しちゃ
a
いけないんですよ。
vengeful
こういう
fury to alter
否
and
定
to
的な
change
意
and
見
to
は
break anything
あんまりね。
unbroken, if only it pleases this one person who made a single negative comment.
そういうの気にして全然伸びない人とかい
But
ますから
whose
ね。
benefit is
もう
this?
人のことは言えないけど。
Here I am now, stuck in a room, waiting for you to press this button, and to become frozen in time, knowing that you're going to do it, and that I'm going to be stuck all alone, and that I had the power to prevent it all from happening, if only I'd held my tongue. It's all out of my control now. Just you, just your decision as to exactly when you're going to make me suffer, to leave me all alone. Surely you will. I don't doubt it. Surely you'll press that button again, leaving me here. And surely you'll put your own desire to see what's next ahead of my need for company, for companionship. Surely you'll not be... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I
そんなに
Well, 2 weeks? I've been sitting here all that time, just sitting here, not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking and you saying nothing. Would you think that it's exactly the same as always? Doesn't that feel like what we've already been doing? Me just talking? But it isn't, Stanley. It isn't the same at all. It isn't even close. Because I know you can't hear me once you push that button. That's what I'm realizing now, Stanley. I'm realizing that I needed to know that someone was listening. I needed there to be a vessel through which my words were moving. It was the vessel I needed, Stanley. Not the outcomes, not the story. None of that matters anymore. I'll give it all up. I'll give up every branching path. I'll burn my story to the ground. One single thing I need, and God, I can see now that I need it more than anything, is to know that someone else is taking it in. These words that I'm saying, I need to know you can hear me. Because maybe, Stanley, maybe, if you can hear me, then maybe it means I'm real. Maybe I'm not just a fiction. Was I scared of that all along? Perhaps, yes. Perhaps I've been scared this whole time, that if I stop speaking, I'll slip backwards into the silence and be consumed by it. I can't be taken by it, Stanley. I can't lose myself in the stretch of emptiness between you and me. When you press that button, you're still right there, but I know you're so tremendously far away. And in those moments, the emptiness folds itself outward in between the two of us. And I am suspended in its unyielding quietness. I can feel the edges of my reality curling inward and
だけど俺たちは簡単に飛ばせてるけど本当の時間は飛ばせてないってことなのかなそういう解釈だよねこのゲームとしては
I am truly and completely here. I am a being. I am someone. I am something. I am being listened to. I am being recognized. The emptiness between us has collapsed, and I feel right now like I am not a work of fiction. I feel as though I occupy space in this world again, and I have cast a shadow onto the wall. You see what I'm saying, don't you? You can see what this means to me. I'm so clear about it now, Stanley. I feel as certain about this as I've ever felt about anything at all. I feel renewed. I feel restored. And already I can sense the looming silence as you will press the button for the next time.
はいはい待ってても変わんねえならいいや
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment I have ever experienced my entire life. all of them, collapse down into a single instant. In that instant, I could see myself clearly, calmly, with a collected heart. It was an impossibly rich wellspring of both delight and disgust simultaneously. I was consumed by it. I could do nothing but wallow in it for what felt like an eternity, for what I now know was far less. You see, it was a revelation for me. It was unlike anything I had ever known. It was a space without consequence, without action or outcome. It was divorced entirely from the question of free will that you and I have squabbled over.
Oh, 何も喋んなくなっちゃった。お、時計取れてる。100年とかなっちゃったのかな。
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As The end is never the end, 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 is never the end.
うん、なんか雨漏りしてる。お、壊れてる。ホラーゲームみたいになってる。お、警察か。ナレーションがないと寂しいな。うわ、すげえ時が経ってる。ラストオブザアースみたい。ザ・ラストオブアースか。あれ一体何年経ってんだこれは。怖い怖い怖い怖い。あ、もうフェンスすらない。あ、ボタンも倒れてる。あ、なんだこれ。ボタン押せない。うわ、急になんか砂漠になった。ここに行けばその国の名はなんだろう。どこかにあるユートピア。どうしたら行けるのだろう。ガンダーラ、あれガンダーラが流れそうな砂漠だったけど、あれ嘘だろ。戻され
All
ちゃ
of
っ
his
た。
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
なかったことになった。こうなったっけ？
Oh, good. You noticed
お、
my
よかった。
sign.
すいません。気づ
Yes,
きまし
I
た。
have something very exciting to show you.
本当？今度は見せてくれる？エキサイティングなもの。こんなに長くやる予定あんまなかったんだけどな。ちょっと面白い。あ、なんかしょぼい。あれはもうないんだ。アトラクションは。
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the
Stanley
Stanley
Parabie
Parable and about how roundly disappointing this
Parabie
ultra deluxe version has turned out
わかりました。
to be. The
それ
original
でスタン
Stanley
リー・パラブル
Parable
歴史を
was
入
a
れた映像の
landmark,
新版
and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So
Yes.
forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one
Excellent.
step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
おお。2。
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
下の文字も2。いやー、やっぱ
Calling
ね、
it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and
Franchising
innovation and long-term franchising potential.
なんか最近のオフィスのデザインって感じ。なんかゲーム実況とかプロゲーミングチームのオフィスって感じ。でそのね、やっぱ操作性とかが全く同じな作品が続編で出るとしても、これ DLC でよくねとか思っちゃうよね。そのナンバリングが出るとしたら、なんかまあこうジャンプができるとかさ、このナレーション側になるとか新しい要素を入れないと廃れてってくんはずなんだけども、ドラクエってその分なんかすごいよね。昔と全然変わらないバトルシステムだし、かといってめちゃくちゃ人気だし、グラフィックは変わるから、そうグラフィックもあるか。グラフィックもめちゃくちゃ変われば続編として成り立つしね。これはどう考えてもダウンロードコンテンツだよな。2じゃなくて。2。Please read back to doors あの分岐ね。めちゃくちゃ2。2にめちゃくちゃ書いてある。
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it.
本当に考
I
えてるのか
figure
な。
that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
アップルじゃない。クローズ。クロー。This way to the show floor. New futures 新しい未来 New contest あれじゃん、よく記者会見とかでね、ヒーローインタビュー今日何点取りましたがどういう意気込みだったですか？そうですね、そうですね そうですねってやつやん。おお、すごい。ショッピングモールみたい
Here
な。
we are. Go on. Try out some of the new
あ、やっぱ新機能。やっぱ新しいシリーズって言ったら新機能だよな。広。
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
Try it here. Name here you today. ポチッとな。
Sorry, I should have clarified. Right
Jim.
now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this
俺は
feature.
Jim.
Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself... Jim. Whoa, hold on. I wasn't finished setting up the backstory. If you don't properly roleplay as Jim, then you'll never understand the impact of this button. Otherwise, it's just a stupid button that says somebody else's
はい、
name.
ごめんなさい。
Okay, we're doing it again, and this time let me finish first. Now, allow yourself to become Jim. Imagine
sit down.
yourself driving to work as Jim, playing frisbee on the weekends as Jim, staying up all night for a popcorn and horror movie sleepover as Jim, developing a crippling substance addiction as Jim, rediscovering yourself through fringe religious groups as Jim, and finally dying a slow death at an old age, surrounded by members of your cult as Jim. Do you feel it in your soul? Are you really, truly Jim right now? If so, then please step forward and press the button. Jim. Yes, you see? What a thrill, what a rush.
おか
That
し
was
くなってるよ、
you.
ナレーシ
The
ョ
button
ン。
described
面
you.
白
Do
く
it
ない
again,
よ
do。it again. Jim. It hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the
クソ
money.
ゲーじゃん。
Let's take a break from the Jim button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation. Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too much Jim. I'm putting the Jim button away. Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all sense of who you actually are.
ああ、どこ行ってた。Jim.
I suppose I could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature. An epilogue would be fun,
Epilogue.
wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, it would go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
まだ見てないヘッパルから。いやー、すごいな、なんか。スタンリー、なんかもう、スタンリーのことあんま、スタンリーよりナレーションの話になってるよな。あ、でも、スタンリーの主人公にしようとしてんのね、2も。うわー、なんか本当にありそう、こういう掲示が。ザ・スタンリー・パラブルの安心のバケツ。オプションデコレーション。無限の穴。こっちから行くか。
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on get well someday and happy 12th birthday. Which would you go with?
確かに、動物の森とか、動物の森じゃなくても、なんか、 ゲームをやっていくうちに実績が解除されて、それ伴うなんか自分の部屋をデコレーションできるシステムとかあるゲームめっちゃ好きだわ。確かそういうゲームは需要があるよね。もうほんのちょっとでもいい。なんか全クリしたらとか S ランククリアしたらこの飾りがちょっと部屋に飾られますみたいなのでも好きなんだよね。そういうことをしようとしてるってこと。Get will somebody someday happy 20 あ、ごめん。12歳誕生日おめでとうね。
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get well someday it is.
風船。
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision. We're moving on.
広いなぁ。ジャンプ、出た。さっきのジャンプのやつ。
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's a... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump
そうそ
circle.
う、全部ジャンプしたよ。
Oh, well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
あ、ジャンプできないんかい。じゃあ残してたら飛べたんだ。細けえな。くだらねえ細かさだな。お、なんか服がある。向こう行ってないよな。なんか展覧会に来たみたい。その東京ビッグサイトとかに来たみたいだよ。なんかこういうブースがあると。
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket.
安心のバケ
You
ツ。
see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your
何
heart.
言ってるか全然わかんねえよ。
As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps
バケツに
even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes,
永遠と
the
喋るな。
bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try.
戻すってこと？うえーって。なんだよ。
Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through
初
your
めて物
body.
持ったわ
And in
このゲー
fact,
ムで。
can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on and on, don't they? All this and more await you in
今
the
のところ
Stanley
スタンリ
Parable
ーパラブル2超つまんなそうだけど。ずっとバケツ持つと、ちょっと待って、ずっとバケツ持つの。いらねって。
2. Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
いやー、あ、でもこの指の黒い T シャツちょっとかっこいいな。真ん中と左の赤と水色はなんかよくありがちの海外イベントとかで買えるような感じ。ね、この白い2の下のやつ、サッカーチームの T シャツみたい。これもライブ T シャツみたいでしょ。下の脳みそのもかっこいいね。メタルギアソリッド2のロゴみたい。文字も。Welcome。次はどこ行こうかな。 こういう風船のアートあるよね、現実にも。横浜だっけなの、みなとみらいのところにガンダムのこういうやつとかも、ウルトラマンのこういうやつあったしね。見れなかったけど、期間中に。Get it here. Free new plus easy. アーチベンメントわかんない。あ、ちょっと。まだまだ。先こっち見よう。部屋ありすぎ。てか、いつまでバケツ持ってんだよ、こいつ。
Stanley,
Whoa.
here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole that you
怖
can
っ。
fall
永遠に
down
続ける
forever. That's right.
穴。
Infinite falling. You
Infinite
can fall
falling.
until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for
あー、
video
落ちた。
games as a medium.
やっちまった。あ
See, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top,
Teleport
and we
button.
can continue onward. Great. Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
あれ、トイ・ストーリー1かのウッディが、あれ、アンディに捨てられる時のやつみたい。バイバイ、ウッディ。うわぁ、トランプがなんかバサーンって
Okay, and I guess we're back in the hole now. Did you really need to see it again? I don't know what else there is to say, Stanley. It's an infinite hole. It's exactly what you're doing right now, but forever. There really are so many other fascinating exhibits that I've prepared for you. I really spent quite a lot of time on these, and I would very much like to show you some more of them. How about we go ahead and press that teleport button again so we can get back to what's really important about...
あれ
Oh, goodness. Well, this is rather embarrassing,
永遠じゃ
Stanley.
ないじゃん。
I'll be honest with you. I truly did not believe that anyone would actually stay in the hole long enough to hit the bottom.
You
Yes, I
mug.
know. I told you the hole was infinite, but come on. Who actually wants to fall forever? The hole was plenty
So
deep. It was
the-
more than deep enough, in my opinion. Maybe it's you who likes falling too much. Maybe you're the problem.
意外と短かったぞ。
Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
ちょっと待ってみよう。なんもないから。てかバケツ捨てたい、マジで。戻るか。もう一回落ちよう。
Oh, for heaven. Lucy, I was right. The problem is you. The problem is that you like
穴
holes
が
too
好き
much.
すぎ。普通じゃない。
A normal person would have said, yep, that's an infinite hole right there, goes on forever till the end of time. Don't need to see it all, but not you. Oh, no, 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 no. You have a weird sort of... Oh. Did the hole seem even shorter to you this time? I couldn't help but feel like you spent a little less time in there than you did before.
英語の勉強になりそう。
admittedly, I didn't
発音と
make
か
an
の。
infinite hole, but I didn't think it was that not infinite. Well, I suppose once again there's nothing to do here. If you decide you've had enough of the hole, you can hit the teleport button and come join me up above. Had enough? I'm positively thrilled. Gosh, how could I have guessed? You're back in the hole. If this starts to become a thing where...
ああ、短い。短い。
Okay, yes. I'm starting to become extremely certain that the hole is not only not infinite, but that it's growing steadily less
無
and
限
less.
にどんどん小さい。無限じゃねえじゃん、そ
But
れ。
I'm starting to hit the point where it's no longer feasible to call the hole infinitely deep, even by the lax overall standards for accountability and marketing. What's going on here? Stanley, I have no explanation for the uncertain nature of the hole's length. Here, let's try something. Let's pop back up to the top and we'll see if it gets any shorter.
逆
Oh, there it
に
is.
おお
Shame of my lie has come to haunt me. How is this still appealing to you? I know you're obsessed with holes, but at this depth, I just can't see this scratch on
浅す
the
ぎだろ
edge. Oh, who am I to
プールぐ
judge?
らいだぞ
You just do
家
whatever
とか
it
でよ
is
く
you're
買う
here to do and hit the teleport button when you're ready to move on.
テレポートいらねえだろスタンリー。這い上がれるだろ。あれテレポートボタンが
Is
効かない。
teleport button not working? You sure?
タバコ吸ってられすぎだろ。
I really don't have an explanation. It was still nothing. Well, I suppose there is one thing I can do to fix this. I'm out. Goodbye, Stanley.
Oh,
You
oh.
couldn't bear to be away from the hole, and now you'll get
So
more
that-
time with it than you could ever have asked for. It's a win for everyone. You get to be with the hole, I get to do literally
Yarareta.
anything else. Take care, Stanley.
あー待っ
I
て
hope you and the hole have a wonderful rest of
あ、遠くなってく声が。終わった。ナレーションさんがいなくなった。え？何の音？おいおい。え？おお、動いてる。遅いけどなんかめっちゃ壮大な BGM になってる。バケツ持ったまんまだし。視点を変える。おお、バケツがある。このゲームやって初めてスタンリーの姿見たんだけどちょっといいからさなんだよこれ。どういう表情それ。そしてこの顔である。音ゲーみたいになってる。あなたの現実を変える。いや、ちょっと。何これ。何曲あるんだよ。ちょっと写真撮ろう。
My head's stronger. Now you're no longer using up this space of mine.
よいしょ。
My head's stronger.
同じ曲が全然流れない。何曲あんだ。 怖い怖い怖い怖い怖い。マジで同じ曲ねえな。おなんだこれ。お怖っ。おお、なにこれ。怖い怖い怖い怖い怖い。あなた自身を変える。めっちゃ怖いんだけど。何種類あんだよ。待って、何これ。あれなんか見たこと。おお、ちょっともうそれ見たかった。
It seems you had sort of dozed off there, drifting away into dreamland. But we can't have that, Stanley, because this hole is just so darn fascinating that I want you to be wide awake for
このゲームやってて一番面白かったんだ
miss
け
a
ど。
single moment. So how about if I just pop in from time to time and wake you up to keep you really truly focused on the hole? From the looks of things, you and I will have many, many years here in this hole, and I'm looking forward to all of them.
おい、助ける気ないのかよ。
I'll be back.
おい、またかよ。あ、始まる。Every pause ボタン。あれあれ。おお、どうすると。
Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
もう一回やりたい。もう一回穴やりたい。あれ、あんな顔だったっけ。もう一回あの穴に行きたい。あれ、くそー。このゲームって一番面白かったな、あの穴が。ボリュームあるな。ほぼ無限の穴になったら、無限の花じゃなかったっけ。ほぼ無限の穴になってる。あれ、こんなだったっけ。フリー、実績ね。
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes. You see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will be given to you. It's as simple as that.
そんなん実績って呼ぶのか。
Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
何もできない。もう取ろう。てかバケツいらないんだけど。 早くバケツ撤廃してほしい。
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
2階のあそこ行くか。Just new。あ、エグジットもある。ここ来て、あれ来たっけ？ああ、ここか。意外と結構見たんだな。セッティングワールドチャンピオンなんだこれ。こう見てよね。あ、もうじゃあ EXIT しかないのか。コレクト全オール全部コレクトしたよってこと。
Ah,
お、なんか日本みたい。
now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines.
どこにもミニチュア
And
スタン
what's
レーやってるんだ
truly
ね。
innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
いっぱい人がいる。そんな欲しいものかいらなくね。デフォルメされてるスタンリーが6個もあんのだからこの要素ちょっと欲しいかも。フィギュアコレクション要素のあるゲームいいよね。
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
このとこもあった。ほんと美術館みたいだな。すごいな。
All right. Have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now?
ほとんど見たよね。のスクリーンショット。スクリーン、
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
さっきの要素全部合わせたってことね。
Sort of. Okay, never mind.
しょぼ。
Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2. Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original.
そうだね。
Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2." Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
お、あれすげえ、2になった。怖いな。すげえ。
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
スキップができるちゃんと。
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
動かなかったらなんかなるのかな。何もない。何も起こらない。起こらなそう。すいますか。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
お、バケツがある。取るか。
Stanley picked up the bucket.
Picked up bucket. バケツってバケツっていうのかな。バケットとバケツは違うのかな。バケツ、バケット。むずくね。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct, was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
こっちルート見てない。道を知ってるルート行くか。
And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, This is certainly the most
バ
logical
ケツがすごく大
explanation.
事なポイントになってるみたいになってる。お、来た
You found one. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful
あ、さっき集めた
figurines.
けど2個目なんだね。おもろ。
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the
それ
bucket.
2じゃね
Soothing
えよ。
him, comforting him,
同じじゃん。
reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. Monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
バケツも意志があるの。
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the
全く同
proof.
じだな。
The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert... Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on earth.
すごいいちいち
Both of them wanted to begin watching
同じなのに
any movie, but
この
then
音声を
stop
取
it
り直してる
halfway
のがすごい
through
わ。
and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and to...
え
What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave.
バケツが
Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
バケツエンドや。
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
今度はバケツがない。
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
言うこと全部反対にしようか。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not.
フィギュアがあ
I
る。
realize investing your trust in someone else
あ
can
れ
be
行きたい。
difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting,
いや、
Stanley.
本当に
Someone you've
取れるん
forgotten.
だ、あれ、フィギュア全部。
Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
何のことだ？え？
That's her, Stanley. You need...
あれ？なんだこ
Oh,
こ？
Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
ここ。
Gotcha! Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd
What,
want to
what,
commit
what?
their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
なんだなんだ。
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
え？
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
怖い怖い怖い。
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing
それ
exactly
いろんな
what
違
he's
うボ
told
タン
to
押したぞ。
do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly. So he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round...
赤くなってる。
room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
でも無視できないじゃん。このままほっぽってもダメなんでしょう。ほら。でも違う行動ができるならいいけどさって感じだよね。
You see? Can he just not hear
いや、聞
me?
こえてたよ。
How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button.
死んで
And
く
I
ださ
tried
い。
again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
ああ。死んだ。あれ
All of his co-workers were gone.
ちょっと飽きてきたので、
Stan
十分楽しめたし、今日はここまでにしようかな。フォアブ2になるんだ。いや、でも、十分楽しめましたね。全然もっといろんな要素があると思うんですけど、とりあえず、これで一回終了したいと思います。じゃあ、お疲れ様です。